next speaker is a qualified speaker, past district governor, District 12. And I heard him speak just yesterday. Now, I can imagine I would have heard him speak many occasions. And he spoke to the Kiwanis Club, and I have to say, in front of this audience, that I think it was the best speech I ever heard. And he's giving us a different speech tonight. So, talk about a talent. Let me read his introduction. Jeremyha Lyle has been a Toastmaster for 14 years, having served the organization in many ways. He is proud of the journey he has made in Toastmasters and the lessons it has taught. Given everything Toastmasters has done, Jeremyha will be sharing the first big decisions he made that set him on a path of learning and dedication and friendship, and a lot of bumps and bruises. His journey started in the 8th grade, and now with those past experiences will leave you remembering times of years ago, and hopefully with as much joy as it is left on the story. Jeremyha Lyle. Jeremyha?
Did everybody hear me okay online? Okay. Close your eyes with me for a second. And I want you to think. I want you to think about that decision that you made. Remember that decision that you didn't know was big at that time, but you made it. And then life took steps. Where are you right now, Susanna? Where is that?
Where's that place?
Where is that place?
There's a ministerial.
Ministerial school. Fantastic. David, where is that place?
Without a home.
Without a home. Our. Anybody else? Brian, where is it? There you go. Changing jobs. Somebody online. Where are you? What are you thinking about this? Unmute yourself. Tell them.
I don't think they can hear you. Put the microphone on.
Somebody online. Tell me where you are.
Legally separated.
Legally separated. Well, let me tell you, fellow Toastmasters, guests, decision makers, I am an 8th grader. I am sitting on the gym floor. They're just introduced all of the coaches, all of the committees, all of the things that you could do in a school. You know, I'm at that big crucial part of my life. Girls just become cool, but I'm not quite for sure if it's cool just yet for me. But needless to say, I'm there. The football coach comes up and tells about football. And all the guys are like, sign us up. But my mother wouldn't let me sign up for football that year. The kid across the street from us broke his kneecap his senior year. So football, out of the question. But then the athletic director comes up and he starts talking about wrestling. Wrestling? I love Hulk Hogan. Macho Man Randy Savage, the ultimate warrior, running down the aisle, jumping in the ring, yanking on the ropes. Jimmy Snuka, jumping from the top of the cage. Oh my God, I was in love. Forget women, I wanted to wrestle. So I put my name down for wrestling that day. And I went about my day. Didn't think anything about it. I got a call randomly that summer. And it was from somebody by the name of Cedric Story. He was the high school wrestling coach. And he said, you showed some interest, I'd like to invite you to practice. All right. So I went to my first practice. Now I have to explain to you who Cedric is. Cedric was only about 5 foot tall. He was also about 5 foot wide. He was a bouncer on the side for Death Row Records. He could put 400 up like he was just lifting curls. He was a school security guard, a Marine Corps drill sergeant, but one of the most amazing men you would ever meet. Went to practice that day, and we got ready to run. So Cedric sent us on a run. Just a quick 3 miles, just to keep going. Then we would go run bleachers. Then we'd run wind sprints. We never stepped on a mat. This was not the wrestling I signed. But I came back the second day, the third day, and I spent the next 4 years of my life wrestling in high school. It was an amazing experience. Every time it gets cold, my right elbow hurts a little bit because of those days in high school. I would come home with bruises, fractures, bloody noses. I wouldn't be able to eat during Thanksgiving over the 4 years, and I would have to stand on the scale with my dinner plate, trying to make sure I could make weight because the Colton Christmas Classic was coming up that weekend, and I better make weight or my coach is going to be pissed. I did all of that for 4 years. But I loved every minute of it, those 4 years. I thrived. I was a 4-year varsity letterman. But more importantly, I was able to meet some amazing people. The people that I made friends with changed who I am. They're high school kids. They're trying to figure out their lives, but they helped modify mine. So I'd like to share with you a story about these 4 people, these people. We're gonna go. Clearly, I need Lyle to help me out with technology on this thing. What you're gonna see here, in case you're wondering, the stunning looking young man with brown hair on the right, that's me. That was before I found out what Mexican food was in McGill's Jr., just so you know. Well, let me introduce you to the 2 ladies in the front. The one on the left is Krista. Krista was a pastor's daughter. Devotion to her beliefs more than you can believe. While most of us were out drinking aftershock or Mickey's or whatever we could get at the local liquor store or having a dip, she was attending church. Always inviting us. The one next to her was Breezy. Breezy was my stacker. Every time I wrestled, Breezy was there. Breezy was infectious. She would smile. She was always pleasant. And you could always know that somebody was going to be happy whenever Breezy was around, because she was an uplifter. The gentleman to the left, on the top row, that's Geraldo. I went to junior high with Geraldo. Actually, Geraldo was the first person that ever beat me up too in junior high, in case you're wondering. But Geraldo was a friend tried and true. If there was something happening in high school, Geraldo was the first person next to me. Somebody wanted to fight, I knew Geraldo would be right there backing me. No matter what, he was there. Next to him is Ian. Ian was the cool one. Ian was the one that a lot of us wanted to hang out with. You wanted to be seeing Ian. Ian was the one that elevated your status, but also brought people along. He took people along his journey. And he made sure that everybody was taken care of. And if we go over to the other picture, the gentleman in the back row on the left is Richard. Richard, in our group, was the one that could fit in everywhere. He was a natural athlete. This guy walked into the mat room and owned people without any lessons. But not only that, but Richard could walk into a room and connect with everybody in a way you could not imagine. He was a friend to everybody. Never really met anybody that had anything to say about Richard that would be bad. So all of these people taught me lessons. Slowly but surely. Geraldo always being there. Ian was the first person I actually got a chance to on a Saturday night to hang out with outside of my family. And go hang out with buddies on a weekend. These were experiences we had. We spent, some of us 4 years, some 3 years, some 2 years together. We took these pictures to remember them. We shared stories. We shared life together. We had successes in the mat and rings. We had failures in life. But every single one of them were there all the way through. No questions asked, no judgments. They were there. And I didn't realize until recently how much they affected me. And the reason why I didn't was because life got in the way, as we all do. We graduated high school. I went to college. Some of them went their own, they all went their own ways. We went in different directions. Life got in the way. We got families, we got jobs. We kind of grew apart. But we would still connect on Facebook. We would tell stories, maybe shoot a message back and forth. But then something happened this past year. My nephew started high school. That's my nephew. Right there on the left, he's pinning a young man in his first varsity, in his first freshman tournament. He's the left one to the left, me, along with his friend, right there. And I remember walking into that room as he's getting ready to wrestle for his duel. And for anybody, has anybody here ever wrestled? Ever wrestled in high school? There's a smell whenever you walk into a mat room of sweat. And I don't know how to be able to explain it, but you recognize it whenever you've been there. And I felt that. I smelled that. I sat in the bleachers watching my nephew wrestle. Watching his teammates cheer. Then bond. Then build each other up. Then talk about wrestling. The connections that they made. I'm watching him do this. And it took me back to high school. And it reminded me of everything that those kids at that time did for me. Because he's living the same story I had the opportunity to, but in his own way, with his own friends, his own successes. And I had a chance to be able to watch this. Over the course of the past 20 years, things have changed some. Clearly, you can tell I found food. And I don't have to weigh my food anymore. But on the left is a picture whenever Krista came out and before Geraldo moved to Texas. On the right is a picture we took just about a year ago. It's actually an exact replica of the picture that me, Richard, and Ian took in high school. Richard came from back east to be able to come visit with us. You see, Geraldo lives in Texas now. He's a family man, has a beautiful family, a beautiful wife and kids. And he's grown into be an amazing person that I'm glad to call my friend. Krista still has a devotion like you would not believe. And every time you struggle on something, that's the first thing she goes to, is her beliefs. And that dedication and focus is amazing. Richard is serving our country right now. He is, and in a second we have a couple minutes, I can have him introduce himself. But Richard is serving our company. He is actually an officer. He is back east right now in Virginia, I believe. Ian still is one of the coolest guys I know. Just came back from Miami. Has a beautiful, oh, I guess I should say Krista has a lovely husband and beautiful kids. Richard, lovely wife, beautiful kid. Ian, beautiful kid, lovely fiance. I got a chance to be able to meet. But Ian still travels around, is still the guy when you talk to him. It's the stories he has and the things he does. Still just connects. And Breezy, who I'll be seeing here very soon. Beautiful family, lovely husband, still. I talked to him recently on the phone and we connected. And I automatically felt better talking to him. But you see, not only are they who they are who I am. Part of me is Breezy. Because I want to be the person, whenever we're talking, I'm finding out about people. I want them to feel better. I want to make that connection. I want them to be happy. Part of me is Richard. But I want to be able to walk into a room, connect with an audience, shake their hands, and be able to hear about their stories. Part of me is Krista. About believing in my beliefs. The same is true. No matter if everything else is telling you, if everybody else is telling you no, stick to what you believe in. Part of me is Richard, or Waldo, about being a friend. Being somebody that you can count on. Whatever times are tough, on the first call you make. Because we'll bleed together, we'll laugh together, and we'll celebrate. These connections have lasted through the years. And at this time, I think I have a couple of minutes. I actually want to introduce these people, as they're such an important portion of my life. And you'll see them online. You'll see we have Krista Herman here, Richard, who, as I said, is serving our country. I believe Ian is here, Breezy, and I'm not for sure if Geraldo made it. They can maybe have them take off. Oh, there they are. Yeah, we put things in the chat. That's what friends are. That's the connection that I had the opportunity to be able to make. So what connections and what changes happened from your decision? You see, a lot of times we forget about that decision because there's so many other things that happen in life. But that decision was the biggest decision I made. Probably the first decision I made in 8th grade. And I can look back on that now and tell you, after knowing these people, it was the best decision I made. Because I'm the luckiest person alive to be able to call my friends and be able to spend those years together. You have that decision. And there's somebody you can talk to, connect with them, share that. Because that will absolutely be able to help you understand what it was. And it will help them understand. Share with them. Celebrate with them. And appreciate it. Mr. Toastmaster.